Welcome. I'm Tim Scoggins, Chairman of the Shaftsbury Select Board, and I am calling this meeting of the Shaftsbury Select Board to order at 6:30 on Monday, May 21st, 2018. First, I need to check, does any member of the board have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda this evening?
No. None.
First up, approval of minutes. We have minutes from our last meeting on May 7th that were circulated. I made some minor adjustments to those and circulated those. Is there a motion to approve?
Is that the one he went down?
That's the one that Dave is retrieving right now.
Okay. So moved.
Motion to approve from Art,
Second.
seconded by Joe. Any other additions, corrections, or discussion about the minutes for May 7th? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
So the minutes from May 7th are approved by a vote of 301. And normally I sign those. I'm going to make a couple of notes here since Dave is normally here keeping the agenda. I thought he would be right back keeping the agenda, keeping the minutes. That's for 5-7. And then we can...
You want to announce that we're changing the order?
Yes, thank you. As Art reminded me at the top of the meeting, I should remind everyone or point out to everyone that we've made a few minor adjustments to the agenda for the convenience of our guests and for organization. The EMS week resolution, we will discuss that at the top of the meeting instead of the bottom after the treasurer's report. And then we have bids on East Road paving that have come in. We're going to open those bids tonight. And the discussion about the municipal grants and aid was further down on the agenda. We're going to move it into the cluster talking about the roads. Thank you. Next, we will move on to warrants. I have a check warrant number 40 in the amount of $2,633.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Art,
Second.
seconded by Joe. This says Vermont State Treasurer. Do we know what that is?
That's the dog licenses. We have to write a check to the state to pay for the dog licenses.
okay.
Their share of the dog
Very good.
licenses.
Any other discussion on paying the state their share of the dog licenses? All in favor of approving check warrant number 40, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So check warrant number 40 in the amount of $2,633 is approved 400. And Dave, for the minutes from May 7th were approved.
Oh, okay.
Those are the ones you want to sign.
Yeah, those were approved 301. Back to Dave.
Thank you.
I can explain that one if you like.
Okay. It's called water warrant number 2 in the amount of $426.
We have always paid...
Let me get a motion to approve
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
first.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Art,
Second.
second by Tony.
Yeah, we've always paid those with just a bank transfer, but it struck me the other day that since it is in lieu of a check, we should actually, if we're dotting every I, have a warrant to approve it. It's basically just paying our own water bills to me, but that's why it was up with a transfer. But
Okay.
it just to have a paper trail, which we never have before.
Okay,
Makes sense.
makes sense. Any more discussion on water warrant number 2? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So water warrant number 2 in the amount of $426 is approved 400. Next, I have check warrant number 40, totaling $76,820.98.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Art,
Second.
seconded by Tony. Major items on this one are $6,800 to Blue Cross Blue Shield, $2,100 to Bennington County Regional Commission, $1,700 to Bennington County Sheriff, $1,000 to Goldstone Architecture, $48,000 to Russell Construction Services, which would be the first payment on the garage.
Yeah, that's 21,000, that is the bonds, and the rest is a negotiated down payment for Morton for the building. They usually are looking for 4 times that.
Right.
But that'll be the only payout in front for deliverable.
The rest will be as done.
The rest will be as delivered, yes.
Yep. $6,500 to TAM, $2,200 to UI Insurance Services,
That's fire department insurance.
So underwriters?
Yes. Mhm.
and those are the items over $1,000. Is there any other discussion on check warrant number 40? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Check warrant number 40 in the amount of $76,820.98 is approved. 400. I have payroll warrant number 22 in the amount of $18,407.10.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony,
Second.
second by Art. Any discussion on the payroll warrant? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Payroll warrant number 22 in the amount of $18,407.10 is approved. 400. And I have payroll warrant number 23 in the amount of $17,864.75.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony,
Second.
seconded by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So payroll warrant number 23 in the amount of $17,864.75 is approved. 400. Yeah, I'll send that, and then I'll send this down there to Dave. Are there any announcements?
Just,
I have a couple of announcements. Monday, May 28th, starting with a memorial service at 8:30 here at Cole Hall, is the Memorial Day Parade. We hope everyone will come out for that. Recall that this parade alternates between North Bennington and Shaftsbury. This year it's in Shaftsbury. We'll start here at Cole Hall, go across the street, down Church Street, down Cleveland, back up to the cemetery on 7A, and then back over to here, finish at the firehouse, and there will be refreshments at the firehouse after the parade. And everyone is welcome. Also want to mention on Saturday, June 2, it's National Trails Day. The Bennington Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring a area-wide event with hiking events at various venues around the area. You can find out details at the Shaftsbury website, shaftsburyvt.gov. In particular, I wanted to point out that there's an event at Shaftsbury State Park with Tree Warden Jim White. Will be leading an interpretive walk that includes park history and tree identification. And I will be there. Are there any public comments?
I just wanted to thank everybody that participated in Big Truck Night. I think it was a big success. It's a lot of work for those people to...
It was.
Put all this
It
stuff
was.
out.
It was a big success. And again, this year we honored our firemen at Big Truck Night, and it was nice to see all those people there who crowded around to hear about them. It was fun to see them take that car apart with the jaws of life. That was pretty cool. We honored 6 members with 5-year milestone awards in their service to the Shaftsbury Fire Department, including 2 really long service awards. Joe Vatican, our chief, has been on the service for 40 years, and Charlie Becker, who is a legend nationwide now, I believe, has been on the force for 70 years, if you can believe it. 70 years. Okay, treasurer's report. Melanie Dexter.
Oh, the sun's getting me again. I wasn't around.
Yeah. Doesn't matter where you go.
Move down in the shade.
Okay. I know what it says. Okay, so there were some interesting things in the cash flow this time that I thought I would mention. That $1,000 was from that was scrap.
Yeah, the bids we received for the generators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
good, okay.
that railroad tax always comes as a surprise. It's just a mystery that appears in the checking account. I never know what it is. But I got the letter today that is, an annual, nice little.
It's a kicker from the state.
Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's. Oh, the interfund transfer. That's just me doing some cleaning up before the end of the fiscal year. That's all the due froms. So that was just reimbursing the general fund from all of the reserve accounts that have had checks written on them.
Okay.
So I think for about 5 minutes there, we had 0 due from, and then instantly something disappeared because of the water fund. So I'm gonna have to do it again before the end of the fiscal year. But as of, I don't know, a couple of days ago, it was at 0. So that's just basically accounting hygiene there. There's one more. That void Mance payment. That was Dave Mance, right?
Yeah, Dave Vance.
Yeah, he refused his stipend, and that causes no end of headaches for me when people do that, because I have to.
What is he getting a stipend for?
He was on the DRB, but as you remember, or the PC, I believe, but as you remember, he didn't finish the year, so he didn't feel he should take the money at all.
Oh, okay.
I wish people would just
Sign that and give it to charity.
Let's take the money.
Or go out for a nice dinner.
Well-
but anyway, that was very nice of him, and
Thank you, Dave.
That's what that appears. That's why that's there.
We're gonna order pizza for the select board.
Okay.
Can I ask how often do you put down the clerk's fees? Is that a weekly thing or a monthly fee?
This is cash flow, so I do it as it happens.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's 21 days worth. So
okay, just
most of the month.
just getting an idea. Okay.
Yeah. This is an interim one, so those are just basically daily
Okay.
accounting. And you go down there a little bit. That's where I already did the town water bills. Strictly speaking, I should have waited for you to sign the warrant, and I will in the future. But since that's a new process, that they just appeared there. And then that's our fund balance. I mean, our other funds as of today. That's that garage bond. I'm going to need to draw that down because of the check. You just signed a pretty sizable check, and that is going to need to be reimbursed. Lister's reappraisal, you see, is exactly 100,000 more than it has been because of we talked about that last time. That
Yes.
I put more money into this CD, so it's earning a little bit more interest. So that's it for the general fund. If you want to bring up the reserve account one, I can show you what's going on there. You can see there's a lot of activity here because that's the other side of the interfund transfers that I just showed you on the general fund side. So that's basically just where all the money was owing to the general funds. You can see those debits, that's what those are. Water money, you can see the 260 fund there, but yeah, there you go. That's all of the money, the water payments coming in. That's why there's so much activity there, because the water bills are out. That's about it for the reserve fund.
So this is the essentially the active account of the water department?
Yes, that's their fund, their fund within the reserve account, so the 260 is their, yes, right, it's the active one. They also have CDs and things.
Other funds elsewhere, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking because later we're going to be talking about the plan on the water pipes, and part of it includes whether or not we tap into the reserve account of the water
Right, okay. Yeah,
department.
so what you see there is that's just the cash position of that
Okay.
part of the
Okay,
fund.
right, all right.
That's it. Any questions?
No? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda, we're going to discuss a resolution declaring EMS Week. And with us tonight, we have several people named Brian from the Bennington Rescue Squad, Brian Pete and Brian Murphy. Good. Thank you all for being here. I received from Forrest Wayan, your boss, a resolution to declare May 20 through 26 of 2018 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Shall I read this, or would you like to, and then maybe you guys would like to comment on it? Or you're just here to see the results? Let me just read that. To designate the week of May 20 through 26, 2018 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine follow-up care and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishment of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week now. Therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Shaftsbury, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 20 through 26, 2018 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Is there a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Art. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor of approving the proclamation declaring Medical Services Week, say aye.
Aye.
So that proclamation, that resolution is approved by a vote of 400. Very good. Gentlemen, we thank you for being here. We thank you for the service that you provide for the community, and we're happy to recognize your contribution in this resolution.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Yep, this is a big week for EMS,
Good.
as you can imagine. So we appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you. All right, we're up to item 9 now, roads report. Dave.
All right, well,
Have a good night.
You too, thank you.
start up, I'll let the board have this for their approval. It's another municipal grants and aid program. This will give us $17,500 that we can use in fiscal 19 into 20. Our match is $4,000, I lost our 10 here. $4,375 So we have one of these grants now, which coincidentally, we're starting to work on tomorrow morning. And we can just do another, this is part of the grants for the hydrologically connected roadways, which we have 41 miles of, and innumerable projects we can use this on. So we'll go around, as we did last time with Jim Henderson from BCRC, pick a location or two and expend the funds there.
So this is a request to allow you to apply for the grant?
Yeah, it's signifying them that we are interested, because some towns have not picked these up, which is why we got more money last time. So once they get this, they divide the pot up again, and I think it implies our minimum is 17.5, but it could be more.
Okay. Is there a motion to sign the letter of intent to allow the letter of intent indicating that we, Shaftsbury, intend to apply for the Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Art. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I just wanted to comment, even the $4,000 can be in kind. It doesn't necessarily come out of our pocket.
Yes, in the grant we're doing now, it's basically in truck and equipment rates.
Sure. Sorry.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the letter of intent to participate in the Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program is approved 400.
Next, we received 2 bids for the East Road paving project, one from Springfield and one from Bowden Brothers. I believe they're over there.
Right? Are we ready to open the bids? Do you have any other roads report information for us tonight?
I don't have that much. We're starting the Tinkham Road project tomorrow, which is part of this grant that we got last year. We need to finish that by the grant deadline, June 30th, which is really no problem. The grading is continuing around town, and we're getting to the point where we're going to start regrading roads that have already been graded, try and clean them up a little bit. The chloride truck is nearly done. And that's about it for right
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Any other discussion on the roads? Okay, then I will move to item 10, which is opening of bids for East Road paving. First bid I have is from Bowden Paving. And from Bodwin, they specify 4,360 feet by 22 feet of reclamation, a base course and a top course, and the total bid is $177,596. And the other bid I have is from Springfield Paving of North Springfield, Vermont. And it looks like, let me compare this bid sheet was provided by the town, so they should be bidding on the same thing. So the only difference is, well, I see a difference in tons on the base course and the top course. So let me just go ahead and announce that this bid from Springfield is $167,298. $167,298.
I suggest we
Yeah,
give
let's
it to
yeah.
Dave.
turn this over to Dave to look and see if...
Because the specifications are straight out of the state books. It really needs to be the same amount.
Yeah,
They are very close. The Bodwin base course is for 1,481 tons, and the Springfield base course is 1,512 tons, so both very close to 1,500, as well as the top course, they're both very close to 900. And then there's a difference in price per ton. So they look comparable. Let's
Yeah. let me
check them
look
out,
into
see if
it.
they are comparable, and then we'll make a decision at our
Okay.
next meeting.
Thank you.
About 10,000 apart from each other.
yes.
Yeah, they're very close. Okay. So that takes care of roads report. East Road paving opening, we discussed the grants and aid program. Was there anything else there that,
No,
grants and aid?
no, that's it.
Okay. All right, the next item I want to talk about is select board goals for 2019, 2018, going into 2019 and onward. This has been much put off because I was absent and then somebody else was absent, and but I want to get a look at what we think we ought to be doing over the next year, and tonight I want to talk about what we're going to do over the next 5 years, because we're about to rewrite the town plan, and I think this is a good time to take a long view and put into the town plan what we think ought to be our 5-year plan. So in the short term, there are short-term zoning issues to be decided on for the November ballot. One, which we will discuss a little later on, motel conversions to dwellings. The planning, we have received from the Planning Commission recommendations for zoning changes relative to motel conversions. These are allowed to happen on 7A into dwellings. The Planning Commission is to be commended for getting in front of this issue. Motels turning into housing can turn into an unpleasant situation, as it has in Bennington. The Planning Commission is looking at ways that we can have some leverage over that process and make sure that we can get the kind of result out of that conversion that is of benefit to the town. Also, under consideration by the Planning Commission, the so-called tiny house and Airbnb type rentals. These are issues that are being grappled with around the state. Airbnbs, whether or not they should be regulated as hotels, and the tiny houses, which are by some people's account trailers, by other people's accounts they're camps, by other people's accounts they're dwellings. And we need to look at those and decide how, if and how we're going to...
How do you differentiate between...
How do you differentiate between those? The Planning Commission is discussing that, and we're about to receive recommendations from them, so that's something that will be coming up again that we'll need to address by November. And then, as came up before, corrections to zoning bylaws table of uses. This table of uses in the front that says, in the chart that just filled in the X and said X equal not permitted, that has caused confusion. What we meant the X to be was just a black out that box saying this thing is not permitted in this zone, or it's not listed as being permitted in this zone. Not that it is not permitted in that zone, it's just not addressed. And so we need to take a look at that and decide how we're going to fix it and have that on the November ballot as well.
But our goal is only to present this to the public, because the zoning board is working on all this. Or the planning commission is working on all this, is that not right?
They are. They haven't addressed the X is not permitted, because I think it's an easy fix. We just take the words not permitted out and just put an X there.
Yes.
And so nobody is inclined to deal with that any further, but I wanted to mention it because it's something we have to do. All these things require hearings.
Yes, that's my point.
A ballot,
yes.
a ballot vote. In the long term, we should be thinking about how to guide the Planning Commission's 2019 Town Plan update. And the major items to consider there are the water main replacement. We recently got a report from an engineering company indicating that our water mains through the town are at end of life and they need to be replaced. And we were presented with a schedule for doing that. That's the kind of thing that needs to go into the town plan because it's going to be a 40-year operation. So we need to take a long view on that.
Are we getting a second opinion on that water main, or just?
We don't have one scheduled. So we really need to decide what issues remain to be grappled with and decide how we're going to proceed and write that into the town plan. If we think we need more information, we can seek out another opinion.
Well, it's just a pretty big chunk of money.
It is.
So that's, it's kind of like going in for surgery. You usually go to a doctor for a second
It
opinion.
is, but we spent a pretty good chunk of money on the first opinion. We got a grant for that, and I want to say it was...
And part of the problem with these are, when this went in 70, 75, 80 years ago, this was the new technology. It's all coming to the end of its projected life at the same time. Some towns, as was mentioned in the report, did have the tops of these pipes start to disintegrate. Other towns are fine. Ours currently are fine. But what's next year? What's 5 years from now? It's unfortunate. There's nothing to go on. It's just going to be when it happens,
And you're
and
not
then you have a
gonna-
catastrophe.
And these are asbestos wrapped pipes, right? Correct?
These are cement asbestos pipes.
Some are asbestos. So
Yeah.
you've actually got to break through the barrier to see if the pipe's fine. The one thing
Well,
that's
to test the
protecting it,
materials
yeah.
inside, you would have to bore into one. But I'm not sure, there's only one place that I was told even does that kind of testing, and I'm not sure what you get out of it. If the pipe is fine, I don't know how. I think the big thing that came out of it is where to start when we do start, is to start down where the soil is wetter around the pipe, because that's where it will deteriorate first. So even if we start this project, we decide, go ahead, 2020 would be when we start thinking about it. Phase 2, the next section, isn't going to be till like 2025, 2030. Now you're talking about 90-year-old pipes. The third phase, we're talking about 110-year-old pipes. So with something you don't know what's going on, it probably would be best to start with the most distressed section, or the engineer's idea of what the most distressed section would be, and go from there. Because it will have to be replaced at some point, and you don't want it to start cascading in a fracture all the way down, because then we would have a major issue.
So what's the technology that's supposed to be forever this time?
Plastics, think plastics.
I mean, it's not plastic though. It's just
No,
a
it's-
cheap way to go.
I'm-
What was it? 60 years on plastic?
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
I'm not sure exactly what would be proposed in the final analysis for this, but it's the next technology to put through.
Well, what was proposed was PVC.
PVC, that's
That's
right,
what-
yeah,
yeah,
you mentioned
yeah.
PVC, yeah, so,
Six-
Um,
60 years on PVC is what they were saying.
I don't know, we'd have to look into that, maybe there's another product out there. We're in such a preliminary stage, that's what I mean, even if we decide to go forward, we're talking about, we're on the list to be funded. So maybe we don't even get funded for 4 or 5 more years. There's a lot of variables in this. Because clearly, without the funding from the state program, none of these small towns could afford to do this. I mean, they pay the bond from them will be large, but it's spread out. It makes it feasible to do.
Right. And then the last item I want to draw attention to is what I'm calling a 50-year gravel road plan. And you'll see why I'm calling it that. The crux of what I'm proposing here tonight is that we have to spend more money on the roads. We have, if we want them to get better, and I'll talk more about that. So taking the long view, in 2019 we're scheduled to update our 2014 town plan. So now's the time to take the long view and to go beyond suggestions and include real goals and schedules in the town plan. As you know, the town plan and all the town plans I've looked at are largely almanacs of population and where things are and that sort of thing. But I think we ought to actually, because we've got some of these long-term things we've got to deal with, put them in the town plan. And I just realized one thing I left off there was the capital equipment replacement schedule. This one's kind of minor, but in the last few years, we have come out from under the debt that we got into around 2008 when a lot of road equipment broke. We have used coming out from under that debt to increase the savings for that road equipment. And we have a plan to save for road equipment, for trucks and graders that will break inevitably, or that will come to end of life inevitably over the next 30 years.
That would be the sink fund, right?
Yeah. So I think we should put that schedule into the town plan so future select boards know that this money is in there and this is what's expected to be done with it.
And I think we kind of just need to look at it again too. I think what we did a few years ago has changed a little bit with certain trucks being.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
Dave immediately, as soon as he got here, has been tweaking that, in the first, we're already, a few years into that plan, and, we've had some actual experience with trucks that needed to get bought. And yeah, Dave's been tweaking that, and you're exactly right. We have to revisit it. So on the municipal water lines, as we've been saying, our concrete asbestos water mains are at end of life. The system was built in 1939 with an estimated life of 75 years, so that was 2014. There's no current indications that failure is imminent, but it's time to start planning for replacement. And we commissioned an engineering study that presented a 40-year plan, a 40-year replacement schedule. The 40-year plan replacement schedule for the water mains as existing bonds are paid off in 2020 and 2030. We take on new funds to fund new water lines. So we need to finalize that schedule, decide on some of the details, like are we going to look and see, whether or not pipes need to be, where there's priority on the pipes in terms of likelihood of deterioration, or go with the engineer's recommendation, which did not include that information, which just said start at the front of the system, because if the front of the system fails, then everybody downstream from that loses water. So here is the replacement schedule. This shows the projected annual user rate for water, and we see that going up over time. This line here would show what the user rate would do just based on inflation if we just come out from under that debt and don't do anything. This green line here shows planned chunks of replacing the pipe that we engage in as we come out from under that debt and acquire new debt. And then this dotted line here, this green line is if we take the capital reserves that we have and include those along with the coming out from under the debt to keep the cost down. And then the dotted line here is if we don't do that, if we continue to maintain those reserves. So that's another decision we'll have to make, is whether or not to burn the reserves to keep the water rates down. The capital equipment fund that I mentioned, we are now saving for public works equipment rather than financing with debt. We need to include our savings plan in the town plan, and as you say, we need to revisit it, make sure the numbers are good, and put that in there so that it guides future select boards, and they remember what that reserve fund is for. And so, let's see if I want to walk through it. This is the chart I put together when we first went through this, where these yellow bars here indicate projected end of life of major equipment pieces and when we're going to have to buy them and how much they're projected to cost by the time that comes around. The blue line is our current debt for capital equipment that's coming down. The red line is the savings that we're doing as we go forward, the money that we're putting into savings.
Based on a certain amount, the same amount every year?
No,
No, it's the
Goes
amount
up
is
every year.
going up,
Okay,
and then it levels out here at about $120,000 a
Okay.
year. And we decided, recall that when I ran these numbers to finance everything completely, including that $400,000 grader in 2033, we had to build up
Huge.
really large reserves. And given the return on investment, at last time I was calling it 0.05, I don't think it's that good. I called it 0.5. I think it's more like 0.05 is what we're getting. So we decided that putting that huge reserve in the bank without getting anything returned on it was maybe not the best idea. This gets us most of the way there,
yeah.
out to 2030 with maybe a reserve that never gets above about $500,000.
And that's just assuming that we're going to replace the grader. You know, you could-
Right,
you
yeah.
could rebuild it.
This actually assumes we're going to replace both graders.
That's right. So-
And we're kind of wondering if maybe by 2030 we don't have to do that. And certainly I think when we talk next about our 50-year road plan, if our roads get better in 20 years, maybe we don't need 2 graders. But this shows, this green line shows the fund balance. So we're keeping it, below $300,000. And by the time you get out here for that second grader, we're a little bit short of what we need. It actually goes below zero there. But, by then, worst case scenario, we have to borrow a little bit if we decide we have to have that second grader. But the point is, these are known expenses. We know this stuff is going to die eventually. So just like the fire truck the fire department has a reserve fund for fire trucks, we've now got a reserve fund for capital equipment for the public works department. So it's not unexpected. So the road to better roads. Gravel roads need, one, a proper road base, which is essentially the laying of fabric, like 18 inches of base gravel and fabric on top of that, and then the surface gravel on top of that. My understanding is the fabric saves you from having to put down 3 or 4 feet of gravel. So it's just what it takes to have properly maintained roads. And by the stories I keep hearing around town, a lot of our roads have never had a proper roadway base built into them. Ken Harrington tells me that they just threw trees into the hole they dug back in the day and threw gravel on top of it, and then it rotted away. That is not how you maintain a road, and our roads need to be better. The other thing is that once you put in that proper road base, you've got to maintain it. And V-Trans and other people say 3 inches of surface gravel every 5 years. So if we're going to make the investment in road base, proper road base, it would behoove us not to let it deteriorate. So once we decide we're going to spend X amount on roads, or so many miles per year, we've got a plan starting 5 years after that to put down the surface gravel to keep it maintained. So what I'm suggesting is we have 50 miles of gravel roads, so let's build 50 miles of road base every year.
Or 1 mile.
Yes, 1 mile of road base every year. Yeah, so 1 mile of road base with fabric is around $100,000 a mile, and that's assuming we do it with an outside contractor. And after talking with some of the selectmen and with Dave, I think that's the way to go, because if we pull a crew away from what they're doing now to build a mile of road base on top of the work they're doing, then the other 49 miles are going to suffer. I think we've got to keep doing what we're doing, and what we're doing now is going to the trouble spots and keeping the roads passable. But if we get in front of it, start to get in front of it by laying fresh road base, we'll get better roads.
So we're gonna come up with a preventive maintenance schedule for
Right. So what we're looking at is if we go with $100,000 a mile, 1 mile a year, that's 2.5 cents on the tax rate that we're going to have to increase it to do that. And then after we do that, we've got 5 years before that first mile needs that fresh layer of gravel, so it'll need $15,000 worth. That 3 inches of surface gravel for that first mile that was laid 5 years ago is $15,000. So that's, another half cent. By the time 10 years have gone by, there'll be 2 miles every year that are 5 years since their last coating of surface gravel, and we're getting close to a cent increase to do that.
I was going to say, it's probably the most problematic areas that you're going to have to really tend to. There's a lot of dirt roads that I've seen that have been, not tended to, and they're in great condition. So it really depends on what section of road.
Yeah, the only sections of roads that I know of that are in great conditions are the ones we put fabric down in the last few years.
Okay.
There are some that we keep passable, and the road crew does an amazing job of keeping the roads passable with, trying to shape them as best they can, even though there's not proper service gravel there. And then we've got lots of ditching and that sort of thing that still needs to get done. But if we commit to this, 50 years out to maintain that refresh. And at this point, I'm not making any assumptions on when base gravel has to be re-put in, but at this point, let's just assume maybe never, or longer than 50 years. But by the time we get to 50 years, we've got 10 miles a year. That's been 5 years since the last time we put surface gravel on it. So that's almost another 4 cents on the tax rate. And we've got to think seriously about doing that if we're going to spend the money to put down the base gravel.
So you're not going to have to put 3 inches of surface gravel every year, or so if you're going to do 1 mile a year, it's not 3 inches of surface gravel you're going to be putting on, is it?
We put down 1 mile of fresh road base, we rebuild a road.
Right.
5 years later, that 1 mile needs
To be refreshed.
to be refreshed. Yeah, so then in the 6th year, that mile needs to be refreshed.
What I'm getting at, though, is it going to require another 3 inches on top, or going to be able to refresh it with like maybe an inch or 2 inches?
No.
Standard is 3 inches.
Yeah, standard
Okay.
is 3 inches. Now, I think, I've talked to Ken Harrington about this, who's done this a long time. He thinks that we could maybe stretch that number out. Maybe you don't need it every 5 years. That would be great. If we only need it every 10 years, that we could.
I think this
Cut
is
this
the worst
number.
case scenario. I think once you get into it, I think we'll find sections that are okay.
That's what I was getting at.
But this, we have to present it this way, because this could be a,
Yeah, at this point, I know what I read on the internet and what I get told
Yeah.
by V-Trans, and the answer is, 3 inches every 5 years.
Yeah.
And, we're talking there about good roads, having roads that don't have potholes in it,
I'd love to have V-Trans come in, or have an engineer come in and just tell us the specifications we should be looking for the type of gravel. So not just go at this and just say, put down some gravel. I think we got to have certain specifications and know what we want, and not just,
Yeah, we have those.
okay,
So
that's,
if we're going to put down like SurePack
Yeah,
versus...
The
Yeah.
state puts out the Orange Book every 2 years, which is the guide to everything that has to be done on the roads.
yeah.
So you have to maintain our grant money from the state every year. The $150,000 in highway aid we get, we have to maintain those standards.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is catch up.
Yeah.
And
No, it's not.
a lot of it is, not every road will need to be completely replaced, but we certainly have enough to start.
Yeah.
And a part of this too is it's the fabric, it's the material, it's the ditching, it's tree work, it's a kind of
Yeah.
a whole package to pick out.
Yeah, there's going to be some sacred trees that we're going to have to, there's
Yeah.
going to be some people
Yeah.
that
But-
may not be very happy, but
A mile a year is a good start in a town that has 50 miles of road.
I still would like to have an engineer just come in and explain to us how we do it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is,
That's right.
So we can prioritize which roads are...
Yeah.
Well, something a town did one year was Springfield, as a matter of fact, they hired an engineer to come in and evaluate all their roads and give them a work order. That was about 4 years ago, I think. And I'm sure other towns have done it too, and just evaluate the roads and say, you know, this is the priority you should do them in, this is what's wrong over here, this one is better, it requires testing, it requires looking at it. It might take a while to, because you kind of have to see it in seasons, especially mud season. And, you know, it's just another option out there of having, because I do agree, you know, just driving out and pouring stone isn't the best way of doing anything. You really need someone with a technical eye to look at it. It's like we were just up on Meyer Road. The state engineers were up there, dug test pits for us, they're developing a plan to try and leave the terrible section up there. This is water all around it. East Road, although it didn't really get the test where we put in the stone pillows last fall, because mud season was pretty moderate this year. So yeah, I mean, an engineer in the whole mix is a good way to make sure the money's being spent properly. And either state engineers or something I had in mind a few years back is just basically a contract engineer who, when we need him to do something, just comes out and prepares something. Or you do a town-wide thing. Although I think many of us could come up with several roads that we would like to start first anyway. Maybe just have them work on that. But
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I have ideas on what roads we should do first too. We'll get to that. Pros and cons of doing this. Obviously, the cons is for many, any tax increase is a burden. And we're talking about tax increase. And let's face it, this board, this administration for 4 years have squeezed and squeezed and squeezed the budget because we know how sensitive the population is to that sort of thing. We have not, our tax rate that we approved this year is essentially the same as it was 4 years ago. We've shown we can hold the line. We've tried all kinds of ways to work smart, but the fact is, roads require improvement. You know, people come in here and tell us, you know, they work for logging companies and they drive on roads with big heavy trucks full of logs and their roads are better than ours, and I can guarantee you they are spending money on those roads that we're not spending. But obviously there are pros to doing this. We can't grow the economy without infrastructure. And a good example is the Shire's Housing Perrin Road project, a chance to get some economic activity in this town. And the main thing that, the main concern with that project is what effect it's going to have on Perrin Road. And I think there are cases like that all over town. The other thing is if we get better roads, we have a chance for economic growth. And if we get economic growth, that tax burden goes down as we increase the value of our grand list. And I'm starting to think that the way to approach this, certainly we want an engineer that tells us where our biggest problems are. And we have to maintain the roads that are heavily traveled. But the roads that are heavily traveled, they are getting the continued maintenance that we're doing right now, where we're putting out fires year after year. And I'm thinking that at least part, if not a big part, of the consideration of what roads, which mile to do each year, should be with an eye toward what's the economic potential of that. And you know, it could be, you know, roads out in the hollow that are notoriously bad, where it's, you know, it's scary to drive out there sometime. But you turn that into a road that's always good without potholes, and suddenly maybe somebody does want to buy some land. Maybe some of the owners out there would like to sell, and you can get, you know, big nice homes built out there and with beautiful views that you can't now because people are afraid to drive those roads. You know, and in the long term, properly maintained roads are cheaper. They're cheaper in the long term, assuming that you're going to have good roads. There's less vehicle damage and accidents, so it's a benefit to the citizens. And we hear all the time about people who are breaking axles and bottoming out on our roads.
Well, and emergency vehicles can get in and out without any problems.
Another good point. And, you know, the convenience and peace of mind. I know a lot of people, until just recently, I drove two-wheel drive car, and there are places that are worrisome to drive, especially in March around here if you've only got two-wheel drive. So in terms of what we have to do if we go after these goals, in terms of our short-term goals, the motel conversion to dwellings, we have recommendations from the Planning Commission that we'll be talking about tonight. So the Select Board needs to accept or modify the Planning Commission recommendations and put those on the ballot. Oops. For the tiny house and Airbnb type rentals, we're waiting to get those recommendations from the Planning Commission. But again, we have to look them over, decide if that's how we want to proceed, put those on the November ballot. And then corrections to the zoning bylaws table of uses, decide if we want to just take the easy fix, which I recommend, just take the words not permitted and just leave an X there. But that is in the bylaws, that has to be approved and put on the November ballot as well. In terms of the bigger, the longer term goals, the water main replacement, we need to accept or modify the schedule, decide, as you were suggesting, Joe, if we're gonna dig up pipes and decide where there might be problems, or just decide we're gonna start replacing the front end first and hope they last 40 years past their lifetime and they don't break by the time we get to the end. But we really are kind of behind on this, and so we need to get moving and put that schedule in the town plan. It's a 40-year plan. It's a 40-year project, and the plan is for 5 years, but it's the kind of thing that needs to be built into the town plan so future select boards know what's going on here.
Dave, or Tim, I'd like to get a second opinion about how much we can put in the town plan. By putting in the town plan, are we locking a future select board into something that they may not deem necessary at that time? I really want a second opinion as to definite things are they to be put in the town plan. If we put in a schedule that says you got to put this much money away in the 10 years, none of us are probably going to be on, are we locking them into something that they can't get out of?
They can get out of it by changing the town plan.
But you only change the town plan every 5 years.
No, you can make an amendments to the town plan anytime you want.
Okay.
You're required by law to change it every 5 years.
Okay.
So, yes, I think we should put it in there and lock them into it. Not lock them into it, but say, this is what we believe ought to happen. And that, they can, if with good reason, they can change the town plan at any time and go on a different course. But the main thing I'm saying here is that we want to put it in there so it doesn't get forgotten about.
Okay, well, I still want to talk to somebody about that. Okay?
Okay. The capital equipment replacement schedule, as you suggested, Dave and I need to update the schedule with recent purchases, check and make sure the numbers are good. The select board needs to accept, modify that, and put that into the town plan as well. And then the 50-year gravel roads plan, the select board needs to commit to it, decide if 50 years is the right number, if we can afford more or less than a mile a year, and build that into the town plan as well, so that future select boards know that this has been done and it has to be maintained. Kind of along with this, something that Dave and I have been talking about that Dave wants to do, and I wholeheartedly support, is get a computer system, a digital system that maintains the public works records so that we know where this is. Right now, if we were trying to recover where we have laid fabric, we would end up, asking the road foreman, and if he can't remember, we'd be going through receipts to try and figure out where we've done this stuff. So when we start on something this big, record keeping is real important, so we know where we've been and where we need to go back with the surface grading.
Just a comment, I know that the Vermont rail system, somebody with an app on their phone can walk up to a bridge or a culvert or any place on the entire rail system, push a button, GPS knows where he is, gives all the property owners the lease that the railroad has with that crossing, with that bridge, when the last time the bridge was inspected. It's all right on an
Yeah.
app, so it's unbelievable.
That's what some of these do, like Web DPW. If you have a computer in the field, you can access a system that will tell you when the last work was done, where by GPS signal, which started, ended,
It's
what
amazing.
the plans are, who worked on the road.
Yeah.
And all it takes is the proper system and it being used properly. It goes across the board with everything, trucks, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing is we need to, get a system and train the crew to use it, because it's only as good as the data that goes into it.
Absolutely.
And that's the real hard part. Is we've got to make sure that becomes, a duty that the Public Works Department has to do, is they have to get that information into the system.
Yep, okay.
Okay? Comments?
Nope.
I think the roads thing, I think we'll find out, we'll spend the $100,000 the first few years because we'll be picking the worst ones, but I think as it gets, I just think it'll get easier as we get on the roads that, like you say, already have fabric. But I think you have to present it that way. Just a comment.
Okay. All right. Okay, as promised, motel conversion bylaws. Let me bring up what the Planning Commission has presented us with. First, there's a letter that they sent describing what it is they plan. Did everybody read this, or should I go ahead and read it?
Well,
Okay.
did you send it to us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I didn't see it. so
Yeah.
I-
For some time, the Planning Commission has been concerned about the status of the Iron Kettle Motel as it relates to our zoning. According to definitions, it cannot be a motel because it does not cater to the traveling public. It cannot be multifamily housing because the units contain no cooking facilities. Therefore, the use is in some limbo space not addressed by local zoning. The Planning Commission has researched and studied the situation methodically. During a walkthrough with representatives of William E. Daley and the zoning administrator in the summer of 2017, it was observed that significant investment in life safety and security systems have been made by the owner. We also observed new lighting, exit signs, and emergency lighting. One motel unit has been converted into a common cooking and living space area for use by all clients. The building seems generally well maintained. The tenants were a mix of daily employees and others with no relation to the company. The building houses 19 units. This means that a large number of people are involved. Brian Lent advised that the complex has recently been inspected by the Division of Fire Safety, who found everything in order. The concern expressed by Lent was that if the town reclassified the use, the property would be subject to a 250 jurisdiction. The Planning Commission contacted the District Commission, and after much back and forth determined that Act 250 had looked at the change of use and determined that no action was required. We submit the attached proposed bylaw for your consideration. It is reviewed by the town attorney. We have also met with William E. Daley manager, who expressed guarded agreement. This bylaw is in no way aimed at William E. Daley, who should experience no impact except for having to stand for an annual inspection. Rather, we see this as a statewide issue that the business model of many motels has shifted to housing. Bennington has more than a few of these. Speaking with Planning Director Dan Muggs, we have learned that the town's frustration and lack of success in dealing with the undefined nature of the occupancy. We observed that the Hillbrook Motel has been for sale for at least 3 years. It is a candidate for this type of conversion. We look forward to having conversation about the issues raised. Hopefully, we will be able to vote on this bylaw change in the November election. And as is indicated there, hang on. What the Planning Commission is really trying to do is make sure that when these things happen, they happen the way they happened at the Iron Kettle. That they're done the way that Daley did it. And as I've said, some of the stuff that's happening in Bennington is not nearly so in such good shape. So the bylaws, they define these definitions, defining a dwelling unit as a dwelling or part of a dwelling occupied or intended to be occupied for residential purposes, containing full housekeeping facilities for the exclusive use of the occupants. A hotel also included the term motel, a building or group of buildings providing commercial lodging for persons with or without meals and intended for the accommodations of the traveling public. A hotel is not a dwelling unit. And so the Planning Commission came up with this new definition. They're calling it a rooming house, which is what we're saying something like the Iron Kettle is, which is a single room rental occupancy without full housekeeping facilities that does not cater to the traveling public. Multiple unit conversions of former motels are envisioned in this occupancy. This occupancy is not defined by the length of the client's stay. And that's something that after much debate, it was decided that just gets too murky if you try to decide, it's a hotel if you stay, 10 days or 20 days, but that's not really the key issue there. So we have a section of the bylaws now that does allow for the conversion of motels to dwellings, and this is this first part here that's already in there, and that's where they convert motels to dwellings. So that part is not changed. That's where they put in housekeeping facilities where you have kitchens and that sort of thing. So the real crux of it is this new part: adaptive reuse of existing and transient lodging constructed prior to the year 2000 that front on 7A to rooming house occupancy, which is what we're defining this new category of housing, subject to the following conditions: that an on-site manager live in the development if it comprises 10 or more units, that as part of the change of use process, all code requirements for public buildings included but not limited to carbon monoxide, smoke detector systems, size and location of required egress, lighted exit signs, emergency lighting, ventilation, and electrical systems must be met. Prior to occupancy, the owner shall file an inspection report from the Division of Fire Safety with the Shaftsbury Zoning Administrator, affirming that all requirements have been satisfied. Annually, thereafter, the property shall be inspected by the Division of Fire Safety or the Shaftsbury Health Inspector, and the report filed with the Zoning Administrator. The owner shall address all deficiencies identified in such report within 30 days of receiving it. That as part of the change of use process, the building or buildings shall be upgraded to comply with Vermont Commercial Building Energy Standards, latest edition. This doesn't really do anything the state law doesn't do now. That common space available to all residents be provided with full cooking facilities and separate living and recreation space, 2 or greater than a typical unit. So as was done at the Iron Kettle, they created a space for people to cook and to meet together, rather than just taking a hotel and calling it a dwelling unit, a residence. And that a change of use shall occur when a hotel's occupancy exceeds 50% in long-term rentals to clients who are not the traveling public. The owner of the property shall apply to the DRB for a conditional use review. And this is the part that actually gives us control. When you go to a motel that is not serving, that more than half the units are not serving the traveling public, we're going to call it this rooming house unit, and it gives us a chance to review it and make sure that it's up to code and it doesn't turn into something unattractive and potentially dangerous to the residents.
I haven't had, I'm sorry, I missed this, so I kind of want to go over it a little bit. On-site manager, is that happening there, and who determines, would that be just because it's owned by the Peckham family or the Peckham, William E. Daley, or however it is, it's owned? That would be just somebody they designate as, you are the manager?
It's an on-site manager if it comprises 10 or more units.
Oh, there's 19 up there.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there is an on-site manager, and that's up to the people, whoever owns the property.
Okay,
And the idea there is that you don't have, just a hotel that people have declared you can live here as long as you want, and nobody's supervising
Yep,
what kind of
okay.
craziness goes on
So
there.
does the on-site manager stay there? Does he live there?
well, that's,
Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
require.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Okay, that's, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's all take some time, look this over.
yeah, I don't want to vote on it tonight.
Yeah, we don't need to vote on it tonight. I'm just, it's something that we need to get on the November ballot.
Yep.
We have between 15 and 120 days from the time we received this, which has been about a month now. So we have 4 months to have a hearing on this.
Okay.
Uh,
Would it be nice to have the other recommendation at the same time so we don't have to, so we can do the two of them together?
Yes, it'd be nice to get all of these done in one hearing if we can.
Yep, okay, so we wait as long as we can on this if they can get us the other one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was rereading the statute today. It wasn't clear what happens if you don't get that hearing done in 120 days, but it did say it doesn't negate the requirement for a hearing. It may mean that we violated law and we're subject to a fine,
Okay.
but there still has to be a hearing.
Yep, okay.
Okay? Okay, just a little housekeeping here. It's time to reapply for our village center designation, which allows people who develop in the village center to get state aid of various types if it is declared to be a village center. One of the things that has to happen for that to happen is the municipal body, the select board, has to say that we want to reapply for village center designation. So I'm asking for a resolution that says, shall the town of Shaftsbury reapply for the village center designation with the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development.
Just a little bit of history, the Economic Development Committee did the actual application to begin with, got the blessings of the town officers, went up to the state. We agreed upon boundaries. There were some changes from what we applied to. And since then, I guess the application comes to Shelley, and Shelley just says it's up to the town. What I'm saying is the Economic Development Committee does not have to reapply. It's the town board that can automatically reapply.
Right. There, yeah.
We're the ones that did it originally.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if it has changed, but the checklist of things that have to happen is we have to approve this resolution and submit the official minutes with the application that
Yep.
show that the legislative body did make this request to reapply.
I so move.
Motion to reapply by Art,
Second.
second by Tony. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. So it is agreed, the town shall reapply for village center designation with the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. So when we get, we will have to get those minutes approved at our next meeting, and then those approved minutes will go
Yeah.
to, with the application.
Okay.
And this is due in September, so we got plenty.
Yeah, it's a long time off.
Okay.
All the map work and everything is pretty
It's all-
much wrapping up
it's all-
at BCRC already,
Okay.
so we're in good shape for this.
Okay.
Okay. All right, town garage and transfer station. We have a stair issue.
Well, no, we have negotiations over designs. I sent out earlier, we're looking at a secondary staircase to meet the fire codes. But just to refresh people at home, especially that this is a design build, So the original design was based on the Rupert building. When that went in, you got that package from Morton, and now the part we didn't opt from Morton, the full design package, that's what's being tweaked out now, and we're coming across a few little things, like the staircase. We need 2 staircases to make with code, or we have to shrink the balcony to less than half its current size. In speaking with our builders, it seems like we'll be able to fold this cost into the whole project anyway, but all this is being discussed now, because there's aspects of the building still being designed, the interior work. Things are coming up in a total code review, they're finding different things. One thing we already opted out of was a water fountain, because for a water fountain, we have to do this, that, and the other thing. We're like, never wanted a water fountain anyway,
Just
so
the
we're not
bottled
doing that.
water, or the cardboard.
Yeah, we did the thing anyway, so, that was just an unnecessary thing, so we just asked for a waiver for that. And there'll be other things that are still in the design process for some of this, but as Peg said from Russell, it's a pretty straightforward, building. Today we were talking about wainscoting, because apparently we can get it free with the package from Morton, so we're just looking into different things. When I have more details, this will come back in a package, and then we'll go to the board and say, this came in this way or this came that way, but right now I would think it's pretty much going to be a wash.
Just wait a while is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the different architects are working on different things, the electricians are going through everything, and then they'll have the final, which I'll remind isn't due until July 1st. So, then it's waiting for the permits. So this is all built into the system, so we're a ways out, except for the transfer station, which will probably begin by the end of the week. Because that's all site work, it's a separate contractor. So what we're looking at now is the transfer station to start by the end of the week, and that's building the new one and doing the site work. And then maybe in a month, we'll move the entire process over there, and then we'll start the site work for the garage, and that'll all be in place. Maybe even when it's done, we'll have the permits back from the state. Because again, reminding that this is a design build with the interior, because the building is basically coming out of a box, but the plans have to go back to fire safety, and they have to approve the plans again. But that could take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on how busy they are. It's not a small building, so we're looking at that. And I had a question, I was talking to our fuel people, and they were questioning why we have 3,000 gallon propane tanks. And so we're batting that around too, if we can put in fewer, it saves money. So I'm asking now about that, because how much propane will the furnace burn to heat a 70, it's kind of beyond my scope, but we'll find out.
I mean, the facility down the grain store has one
Yeah.
1,000, but it's buried. That's the secret. If you bury it, then you don't need, because it's the amount. If you had them above ground, the evaporation in the wintertime is limited to the amount of space that, anyways. If you bury the tank,
Yeah.
you don't have to have as much volume in the wintertime.
Oh, that's
Well, we
interesting.
want to bury it
Yeah,
anyway.
these are
Absolutely.
buried, in the plan they're buried, which
So
is,
I wouldn't think you would need.
yeah, that's kind of why the guy,
1,000 does the whole grain store down there.
yeah, that's why Bo brought it up, and I'm talking to them on Wednesday, and I already asked Jack to review this with the mechanical engineer. Yeah, because, I don't want to fill 3,000 gallons of propane if we can get by with 1,500, I mean, it's-
Yeah.
Because it did seem like an awful lot to me, but we'll work through it. Otherwise, like I said, as the design comes completely together, we can look at any other things that come up. So far, the staircase is the only thing that's come up of any size or scope, and that's a relatively easy fix. And I don't think for a 7,500-year building, I don't think we want to cut the space out for storage.
No, that.
It's
No.
not wise. So if we put the other staircase in, it won't impact the floor area for the trucks or anything. So it'll just make the state happy. It has to be,
The size of the balcony is determined by how big the officers are underneath, so it would really be kind of
Yeah.
hard to limit that up there
yeah,
and still have it.
you'd have to cut it back, and if you can't go past it. It has to be, I forget, it's 50 feet from where you're standing to when you get your foot on the ground on the lower level. So if we put the staircase down the middle, it's going to start interfering with things, but we still have to bring it in from the sides, if you know, so
Okay.
it's not worth it. It's under
It'd be
$10,000.
stupid to have a balcony that stops and then you're just
Yeah.
looking at,
Yeah,
looking
just
down
wave
into the
down.
break room or something.
Yeah, so.
Some of them end up there anyway, so
Yeah.
not doing them well. It would.
Yeah, but otherwise, it's moving along, things are starting, and like I said, when we get to the point where this is fleshed out a little bit more, we'll go through the details of it. But right now, the goal is little things like this, we'll try and get them just wrapped into the price. We don't want to start doing,
When do you think we'll break ground?
it's not scheduled till October 6th,
Okay.
August 6th. But we're already a month ahead. So, because we're doing the transfer station starting now. I'll tell you what, as soon as, the design's almost done, I believe, the interior stuff, and then it's up to fire safety. If we get a quick turnaround, I mean, Russell was ready to go. As soon as they get and we stamped approvals on all the plans, they're on the way. Morton is pretty much putting the building together.
Weaver may want to break ground where once he gets the transfer station done, I assume is he the still?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
He may want to just level off the spot for the.
yeah, he's doing,
right there.
he's doing all the site work. That's why we're trying to scramble around and keep things moving, move the water department. That's why I have the containers out here to move everything we need to do. And Craig, I was up there with him today, he's going to start, he said by the end of the week. You know, so I'll need a few weeks to set that up. We'll probably need a week where we're just going to need some time to switch operations. And then he wants to come in and do the rest of the site work. I mean, it's all his project, so, and he can finish the site work before the building's ready to go. They can just come in afterwards.
Okay, good.
I think that's it.
All right. Is there any other business?
Yes. I received the sheriff's contract today for the coming year. It is 2.3% higher than last year, which when you break it out over the 52 weeks, it gives us like a half hour more a week. So we'd have 17 hours a week at $43.75 an hour as compared to $42.74 an hour last year. So we wind up with 890 hours compared to 868. We get 17 hours a week.
Wait, how did we get, it went up 2% and we get more hours?
Yeah, because I put more money in the budget. I was anticipating a certain amount, so I actually over-anticipated what the rate increase would be based
Okay.
on what it was before, but it flattens out to be, you know, like a half hour more a
Okay.
week. Yeah,
As long as we're in budget,
we're in budget, so
Yeah.
make a motion, we approve it.
We have a motion from Art to reapprove the sheriff's contract for another year.
Second.
Second by Tony. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the sheriff's contract is renewed for another year by a vote of 400. It looks like I'm the only one that has to sign it.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Action items from last week, I've got an answer on one of them.
Yes, on the camera?
Yes. With the North Shaft Lions, this was their project. We have the cameras that go out in the parking area already. It's, you know, they're all matched up with the ones we have. It's just a matter of getting electricity there, and I'm going to talk to Dave about, we'll get it there very soon, okay?
Good.
So that'll be all handled.
Is there any solar systems for those cameras as well for backup or no?
Can't answer that.
Okay.
trouble is the nighttime is when we have
Right.
the biggest problem, and it would have to be a battery backup, and I don't know if that's available or not.
And these are deliberately small cameras, because one of the problems we had there were people were shooting out the lights over the tennis court. So if you put up a solar panel like on top of a pole, I think it would become
It'd be
a
a
target.
bigger target, wouldn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, but that's the reality of it. That's why we don't fix the lights.
Right.
Well, we should just fix the problem and get the people that are doing it.
Well, with the cameras, if they can't hit the cameras, then
If they shoot the
we'll-
cameras, you can't get them.
yeah.
There should be some sort of right feed of them shooting the camera.
Well, the cameras that the Lions got us for the building are quite good. You know, you can really pick people up on them pretty easily.
You're gonna get the same, I mean,
Yeah.
it was a package deal,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I made sure we had them, and so it's just the
Okay.
electricity, so.
Oh, yeah, we can work that, yeah. we'll work that.
Okay. The other action item was to talk to North Bennington about contributing to the Grandview Cemetery maintenance. I forgot to deal with that, Dave. Did you do anything?
No,
No? Okay, we'll keep that one on the list and try to get something done before the next meeting. The only thing I remember was, we need the minutes for the village center designation,
Yep,
which will get approved next time and then go into that, and that's again for September. I don't recall any other action items. Okay, we need to have a personnel issue to discuss, so I need a motion to go into executive session. Moved by Tony,
second.
second by Art, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right. We will move downstairs.